Hello, good people of the internet. Thank you for watching SC2 Noob School. I'm Trebus, and today is going to be just kind of a commentary, more of, or I guess not quite a commentary, more of just an analysis of a certain build. And we're going to be watching LiquidHuk versus Nada. No clue if this is the real Nada. Don't have any idea, but this is indeed Huck playing on the Korean server. And we're going to be watching his game, and what he's going to go for in this game is a two Warpgate expansion into Colossus. And I think this is actually a quite strong build, even in close positions like this. There are some abusive things the Terran can do to try to break that, relatively early expansion, but still quite a strong build. Protoss are really favoring expanding pretty quickly versus Terran these days. LiquidHuk saying fake. What? Probably is fake. I don't know. Nada is on Team OGS, so I would assume he would have his OGS tag, but whatever. Anyway, so the build is basically just going to start off like any Protoss build. He's going to go to 13 supply, and then throw down his first gateway, and then start doing some scouting. And actually, I'm going to turn this on to the Huck only cam, so we'll only know what Huck knows, and I'll talk about as well as I can what Huck is thinking whenever he's performing this build. So just going for scouting at this point. This is a little bit of an odd scouting pattern, but really he's just going to the watchtowers to see if he can find an SCV wandering a certain direction. And as soon as he sees this SCV come into his base, he's going to know, just based on the timing of that Nada is likely in this position. So he got his assimilator up at the extremely normal time, and this was about 14, and then getting his cybernetics core up as soon as his first gateway is done, and then he's going to get a zealot out to at least chase around this probe. Now your first zealot is not going to do much of anything. They can't actually catch a probe, but it's sometimes nice to have it anyway. Okay, so he's walking in and he's seeing one gas and a barracks. This again is about the most basic thing you can ever see from a Terran, so Huck's not going to get a lot out of that. The only thing he knows is that Nada will not be going for any kind of fast expansion. Well, it may be a somewhat fast expansion, but it's certainly not going to be a gasless expansion, so he at least knows that. Now his first cybernetics core is out, he's getting that stalker, and really the reason he's chrono boosting out this stalker, it may seem like a waste of chrono boost at first, but the reason to do that is because you have to have the stalker to actually deny scouting. So it's nice to get that stalker out as fast as you can.
I'm here in the shadows.
Running his SCV away, doesn't want to lose it, but that lone zealot, so slow, will never catch it. Needs to be more zealous. Also getting Warpgate. And then what we're going to see here is a very key unit transition that he's going into. So first he gets a zealot and then a stalker, and now he's going to start pumping out sentries because he's gearing up for this expansion. And the reason sentries are good is because they're only 50 minerals, but they're 100 gas. So they're really light on minerals, they're kind of heavy on gas, but force field allows you to expand a lot better than maybe just having zealots and stalkers or something like that. So he does see a Reaper coming out. Reapers are not used much these days, especially against Protoss, so likely Huck is only thinking that this is going to be a scouting Reaper. Now Warpgate is about to finish, his second gateway just finished, so you can see there's some nice timing going on there, and right as soon as Warpgate's finishing, he's throwing down an expansion as well, and he's going to be getting a lot of sentries coming out of here. Sentries can just delay a push for so long if you have enough of them that they're really good for securing an expansion. So here he's got more sentries coming out. Ideally you want to get out those sentries as early as possible, but you do have to get a couple stalkers, maybe a zealot or two, just to protect from any really super early bio push. So at this point Huck is really wanting to know what his opponent is doing. He hasn't seen anything past his initial scout, so he's throwing down a robotics bay. And this at first is going to serve solely as a scout. He just wants to get an observer. and also throwing down 2 more gateways. This is just in preparation for this expansion to kick in. He's going to need to up his production quite a bit. But scouting is entirely what's on Huk's mind right now, and he is going to go in for at least a little poke. Just to see, just to test the ground. You know, it's possible there could be an expansion. So he's seeing these units, and he's knowing from that he can see, wow, that's a lot of bio units. There's at least 2 barracks here, and probably Huk is thinking that there's going to be some kind of attack coming out. You don't really see that many units without some attack lining up. I'm going to pause real quick. We're going to cheat. We're going to come over to Nada's cam. We do indeed see that he does have a tech lab barracks up, a reactor barracks up, and he's just pumping out tons of bio units. And he also hid a ghost academy, which Huk does not know about because there are no ghosts out yet, so he didn't see that. But perhaps he is suspecting something like that is coming. This push from Terran would come a little bit earlier if he hadn't gotten that ghost lab, so maybe Huk can tell just from seeing the army like that. I'm not sure. I couldn't tell, but Huk's amazing, so maybe he can. Either way, he's got more gateways coming up, going to be able to really up his production. He's getting both of his gas. His natural's getting nicely saturated, his main is perfectly saturated, and so his production is going to start getting really nice. So Huk has got it. Okay, he's got his first observer out. He's got to be expecting some attack coming soon. Seeing a big army, and now he's seeing a ghost. He sees 1 ghost right there, and that's pretty huge. What he's thinking as soon as he sees that ghost is thinking about the EMPs. EMPs on sentries will remove all of their energy, and you know, sentries are good, their damage not great. It's decent, really. Sentries damage is reasonable, but it's not going to win you an army versus Marines and Marauders. So what Nada is going to try to do is to EMP these sentries, and then his army can just waltz in. He's got concussive shells, so Huk can't even run away. So Huk is doing the very smart thing, and he's just spreading out all of his units. He wants the EMPs to be as ineffective as possible. So his observer, he's going to park it right here. He's going to split up his sentries, split up all of his units, and create this giant concave right here, where as soon as Nada moves into a position like right here, and he starts seeing units, there's going to be streaming units coming in from everywhere. He's also throwing down his robotics bay, and he's going to start getting Colossus. Now, I'm going to pause again real quick. Anytime that you're going for some kind of tech like this, like during the time that you're getting a robotics bay, but you don't have any Colossus out, that's a vulnerable time for you. And it just so happens that Nada's push is going to come out around the same time that he doesn't quite have a Colossus. So Nada's push is reasonably well timed. I'm not sure I like this build entirely. The ghosts, since Huk did scout them, watch the EMPs. EMPs go off, they get this many units, and they only actually get the force field from 1 sentry. So this is pretty darn huge. These force fields aren't the best ever, but Huk is, let's look at the units lost. He's doing slightly worse than trading armies, but he's got an expansion, so he's going to be fairly happy about that, and he's got his Colossus coming out. Now he is a little bit worried about this counterattack, but ultimately, if he can get just a few Colossus out, there's enough ledges here and here that he can pretty easily defend this. You know, the Terran player Nada doesn't have any Vikings out, so he doesn't really have to worry. Oh, he loses that first Colossus. That's actually really big deal. Should have microed that Colossus back, and he would have been perfectly fine. So he is forced to pull some probes here, and probes are actually pretty good versus Marauders. And with a little bit of Stalker support, it's going to be very difficult to hold that. So, his units are all extremely low on health. They're going to have to run away, and as soon as the second Colossus pops out, he's going to be able to park it on this ledge and be totally fine. He's even getting his Thermal Lances just now finishing. He started both of those at the same time, his first Colossus and Thermal Lance. And so now this 1 Colossus has entire control over this entire area. These units are not going to be able to walk by without taking several blasts from this Colossus, and so they could try to move up here and do something perform some magic of some kind, but once they're in here, they're committed. They can't run in here and then run back out, because this Colossus is just going to wail on them the entire time. Huk sees a scouting factory coming in. The Protoss player, or the Terran player, as far as we know, hasn't expanded yet, so he's not wanting to use scans to do any scouting, but he does want to see what's going on, so he's just going to poke it up here a second. It'd be really nice if LiquidHuk could take this out, but ooh, it's going to be close. No, not quite going to take it out. That would have been nice, but not a huge deal. The only thing I'd be a little bit worried about is maybe some silly little, parking a siege tank here or something like that. Land the factory with a tech lab, whatever, something silly like that. Okay, so Huk is feeling pretty good now. He held off that push. He's going back to scout, and this expansion is just now coming up. So now he's feeling real good about that. He's got 2 base. He's got a tech advantage. He's feeling great. Sorry I didn't have the production tab on. My bad. I also would expect to see a couple more gateways coming down. Maybe some upgrades. Sees the army is perfectly positioned here to attack him if they need to be. So what he's going to do is he's going to abuse the mobility of the Colossus. They've got a ledge right here that they can always micro back to, and so they can go in, take a little poke, you force those units to stem, get a couple free kills, no problem. It's awesome. Maybe getting a little overly ambitious here, although not stemming all of his units. This entire group of units just took a ton of damage. So without these Colossus even attacking, he did a lot of damage. I like to think of forcing a stem like getting a free upgrade. As soon as you force those units to stem, assuming they didn't get healed, it's like you have an upgrade on them. So forcing stems can be really strong. Free ghost there. Also, forcing stems, you get to force the medevacs to use their energy, and energy is pretty valuable in this game. Quite valuable indeed. So Huk's going to go in for an attack. Both of his bases are totally kicking in. He's getting a Twilight Council. He's getting more and more Colossus, and there's no Vikings to be seen. So these Colossus feel so safe right now. With this terrain here, all this terrain, there's plenty of terrain that the Colossus can abuse and be perfectly fine. In fact, he feels so good about it, he's okay sending most of his army that way, and then just keeping his Colossus back here. He knows he can always run him away, and the ground units will have trouble catching him with this terrain right here to abuse. And then plus with these Zealots up here, getting a nice EMP off, but it's just not going to be enough. That many Colossus, plus all these units, totally taking out that expansion. That is a GG. Huk wins. Very nice play. So just to recap real quick, it was a 2 gateway, and then expansion going down almost as soon as the Warpgate finished. And then a little bit after that, he followed it up, getting an observer to observe the Terran, see what's going on. And then he just basically macroed his way to victory. Alright, thanks for watching. Hope this was enjoyable. Hope it was educational. This is Trebus. Please subscribe, leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up, all that good stuff. And GG. See you next time.